As these things often happen, you know, coincidence. I met Andy today, and he was telling me about an article he'd read. There's
a website called The Philosopher's Mail, which is like an antidote to the Daily Mail, supposedly, set up by the philosopher Alan Button.
Yeah. Anyway, so they were talking about the difference between Western and Eastern meditation. And as Andy told me, somebody had described Eastern meditation as emptying the mind. And it coincided exactly with what I wanted to speak about tonight. Most of you here have been practicing a long time, so a lot of this stuff won't necessarily be relevant. But I think it's worth mentioning, because all of us, I think, carry a misconception around about what meditation is to some degree. And of course, the evidence is in, what's that phrase? Eat in the...
Proof is in the pudding.
Pardon?
The proof is in the pudding.
Oh, the proof is in the pudding, yeah, thank you. The proof is in the pudding. You know, just a straw poll. Has anybody here ever succeeded in emptying their minds? No. I mean, you know, this whole idea of emptying your mind is just, I don't know where it came from. Maybe it was something to do with Zen and the motorcycle maintenance or something. You know, I don't know, some myth. But it's really clear that you cannot empty your mind. So I wanted to talk around, just generally around meditation. And what I wanted to say first of all is that a formal meditation practice, does seem to be one of the best ways in which we can alter the patterns of the way we think, so that we can move away from instinctively and automatically thinking in the way that in this website the Daily Mail thinks, that everything is good and bad, right or wrong, everything's polarized. Everything has to be on one side of the fence or the other, you know. So that there's always people out there and there's always me inside here. So formal practices does seem to be, pragmatically, one of the best ways to change the patterns of the way we think. And I think the most important thing it does, perhaps to begin with, is it allows us to see that the way we experience and see things is personal. It's to do with your own mind. It's not objective. It's not how it is, you know. It's how we perceive it to be. That doesn't necessarily mean that's the way it is. There's probably in this room, I don't know how many of us are there, 18 to 20. There's probably as many ways of seeing the roof, the ceiling, as there are of us in here. And of course, all the people over there are seeing a completely different view of this room than the people sitting here and down there. So, okay, so that's just the primary intention of the practice. Then we start practice, and when we begin, what we experience, I think most of us experience, and people who are taking Saturday mornings with new people coming in, what seems to be a common experience is that we suddenly see there are thoughts, are a torrent, you know, there's just a flood of thoughts. And we think, that's strange. It's not that it's strange, it's just that until we started to sit with it and be quiet, we hadn't realised it was going on 24/7. But now we start to see that, you know, that these thoughts are just constantly on the roll, constantly going. And so, and that's fine, you know, that you can't, trying to stop them is trying to stop a river that's in full flow. It will divert and go somewhere else. So we just have to allow the thoughts to go, you know, with their own speed. And slowly, what seems to happen is that they will slow down. But it does require a committed and formal practice for that to happen. Because if you just dabble at it, it'll happen. It'll just keep going, you know. So then what happens is they slow down, and then we're able to kind of separate them, and we can see them the thoughts. They're not just a stream of jumbled overlapping things that just keep rolling. We start to see them, and maybe we start to see recurring patterns, the way we think. We start to get a bigger understanding or a deeper understanding of the way our minds work. And each of us, our minds work in the same way, but they work for each of us in a unique way, sorry. A uniquely confusing way, probably for most of us, in a unique way. Okay, so we've started our practice. We've got through the torrents of thoughts, and we're down the line, and we've been practicing for a while, and we're sitting, and then we may have had a few experiences. We may have had some clarity. And then we have a dry patch, and it gets boring. We're bored with the sitting. And we're bored with the technique. And we may, if we're working on koans, we may even be bored with the koan. We may even be bored with koans. We're bored. And that's not a problem either. It's not a problem. It's not a problem in either sense. It's not a problem if you want to change your technique, and it's not a problem if you want to sit with the boredom. Both of them are useful. But you haven't got to feel obliged to see something through. If your practice gets tired and a bit dry, then you can try something else. You can try a different technique. You can practice perhaps hearing meditation instead of Shikantaza, or you could even practice visualization. If I don't know much about visualization, but apparently it's a powerful practice. The Tibetans use it. So you don't, if you're stuck on a koan, if you've been stuck on one for a while, then ask to change it. Have a break. You haven't got to bang your head against the wall. The whole thing's alive, and what we seem to have got stuck into, or maybe me, but all of us, or even within this whole tradition, that somehow we've got to kind of see it through, like a samurai warrior never gives in, never surrenders. So I'm not saying be flippant and light about it. It's absolutely, you will get bored sometimes, and sometimes it's wise to see it through. Other times you need a change. But the intention to maintain the practice is what's really important to me. So if you're on the mat and on the cushion, then you're practicing, and that's a lot. That's a lot to be doing that. Okay, so we're moving along the line of practice. Then we reach the place where maybe we've been counting breaths for a few years, or a year, or sometimes only months, but we're counting breaths, and we decided that we're tired of counting breaths, and we'd like to do Shikantaza. And Shikantaza is I suppose if you used an analogy in jazz, it's more like free-form jazz. You're just allowing everything to come up. Just allowing it to arise. You're not attached to it. You're letting it come and you're letting it go, but you're aware of it. You're conscious it's happening. Now, within Shikantaza, which has no subject in it, you're just present to what's arising, you may discover that in fact you can't hold it together. You just get all scatty and you get caught up in things, and you don't feel centered on the mat. You don't feel like you're really solid. And at that point, it's really useful then to come back to root yourself in counting the breath. So you can move between the two. It hasn't got to be one or the other, but you need to feel a kind of stability in yourself. And a focused practice, like counting your breath or being aware of the air coming in and out of your nose, all the different systems that you can use. Here we just tend to use counting. I try and keep it really simple, just Shikantaza, counting the breath, or koan practice. But you can go back between the two. So if you find yourself you keep going AWOL, you keep going off on some trip about something or other, or you're too agitated to sit, then count your breath. Come back to counting your breath. So Shikantaza is essentially watching your thought patterns. And if you can't do that because they're just going too fast, you come back to counting breath. I don't know if any of this resonates with anybody, with your own practice, with your own. And maybe everybody just is happy to, I'm making too much of it, but it does come up a lot in interviews of people are fretful about their practice, about their thinking, and have a definite fixed view about what meditation is. And that usually sets you up to be stuck. Not only in your meditation practice, but in your whole life. So all these things are always interconnected with your whole life. It's not just about meditation or Zen practice or whatever. It's your whole life. How do you not be stuck? You may also, at the end of your meditation, if you're feeling particularly generous that day or that after that time, you may think, reminds me of a Talking Heads song, that you may think you're in a, what's that song? Anyway, you may think that it would be really nice after this particular meditation that you may dedicate its merit to someone else, or the world, or your football club, or whatever. But you can dedicate the merit of your life. It doesn't have to be just about you. So sometimes you can think at the end of a period that, you're feeling some gratitude toward the universe. You can just say silently to yourself, I dedicate the merit of any benefit of this sitting to the well-being of, or the world, or make your own thing up, So that's a nice thing to do if you remember. Okay, then let's move on now. Now let's say you do have a strong experience of unity or bliss, or just of being present, that experience of just being present and how nice it is. Just let it go. You don't be tempted to try and reproduce it or be attached to it. It's of its moment. It's happened to you at a particular time, a particular moment in your life, and it's a spontaneous arising. So the important thing is to let those things go. And one thing you can do, which is interesting, which actually will improve your appetite for sitting, is if you're feeling cosmic, you're feeling, you're at one with the universe, and you'd like to sit and to carry on. Stop early. Come out of it early. Don't stay in there. Most of us think that, what we should be doing is cultivating and staying there, but you could practice non-attachment. You could let it go. Everything's possible, that's what I'm saying. Just feel free about the whole thing, You can use the whole of the practice, full practice. I never understood that. I remember when we first started to practice at Amravati with Genpo Roshi, and it was very competitive. And some of us, including me at times, would sit right through, there'd be a period and then there'd be kinning and we wouldn't get up. And we'd sit right through the period, the kinning and the next period, just to show that we were really in the zone. And sometimes you were, other times it was complete agony, you were just doing it. for the credibility. But at one point, Genpo Roshi just stopped it, you know. He just said, no, you're not going to sit, you can't sit through Kinnin, and you got to get up and walk. And at the time I didn't quite understand it, but now I see it was a very wise thing to do, you know. Okay. Oh yeah. Remember that koan? I can't remember the exact words of it. About two monks are arguing about a flag that's blowing in the wind on the top of a flagpole. And I think one of them's saying the flag is moving, and the other one's saying no, it's the wind that's moving. Is that right? You remember that, yeah? And the abbot of the monastery comes along. Is it Joshua? Anybody remember who it is? Somebody, anyway, some established Zen master comes along and listens to them arguing, and he shakes them, hopefully bangs their heads together and says, "Don't you know? It's not the wind. It's not the flag that's moving. It's your minds." And when we sit, that's a really good metaphor to hold. The flagpole is our unmoving, don't even know how to say it, the very essence of our being, that unknown thing that we can't get a handle on. That's there, it's unmoving, it's your mind that's moving all the time. That's the unknown is always present, like the flagpole. So when you get really identified with your thoughts and they feel so real that you start to get stressed and obsess about them, do remember they are thoughts. They're not facts yet. They're just thoughts. How many times have we thought that what we're thinking is factual, when in fact it isn't? And what arises down the line is not necessarily anything to do with your imagining about what may happen. Okay, then the final question that often comes up for people is that they feel, they can feel guilty that they don't have a regular practice at home. You know, I'm finding it really difficult to sit in the morning. I'm finding it really difficult to sit in the evening. And what should I do about that? Well, you know, if you're tired, if you're resistant, and if you force yourself to sit, it's counterproductive. That's my experience. I mean, other people may have a different experience, but my experience is, if you know, for various reasons, if you're preoccupied, you're tired, whatever, and you don't want to sit, and you force yourself to sit, it doesn't work. Equally, there are times when the situation's right for you to sit. But there's some part of you that's resistant to that. There's some voice that's saying, oh, I can't be bothered or whatever. Equally be suspicious of that voice as well. I mean, you're the best judge of where you are with this. Sometimes it's completely valid and the right thing not to sit, and other times, if you're not sitting, it's some resistance that isn't necessarily that if overcome will improve your well-being. So that's probably that's the judge, that's the litmus test. How do I feel? You know, is my well-being improved by the choices I'm making, or is it not? And the final suggestion is, even if you make the wrong decision, feeling guilty about it doesn't help anyone. You don't need to feel guilty. You were just a poor Buddha that day. Or at that time. I think Rajneesh said that the word should is a 4-letter word. Probably should add guilt to that as well. Okay. That's the sermon on meditation. What do you think? Anybody got anything to share with us, or comments, or? Did any of that resonate with anyone in terms of what comes up? Yeah.
It's the whole picture.
Pardon?
It's the whole picture.
The whole picture, yeah.
I think what you said, Sensei, about regular daily practice, you know, forcing yourself sometimes, when for me it's a bit like, you know, you feel a bit nauseous, and you force food, because that sugar is not going to be helpful. Yeah. But if I'm eating because that's what I do at this time of day, you know, I'm sort of thinking like practice in the morning here, getting out of bed. Just because that's what I do, without thinking too much about it, is a different quality.
Sure.
Altogether.
Yeah.
And obviously practicing with other people as well is a different quality as well.
Yeah. Yeah, we're very lucky here to have other people to practice with, because even if we don't sit on our own, at least we have the opportunity, you know, a couple of nights and Saturday morning and mornings that we can come and join with other folk. Okay, the tape recorder's on. You could go down for posterity some wonderful wise words of. No, maybe your silence is the wisdom. The wisdom of the Stonewater Liverpool Sangha is silence. Good night.